everybody. Welcome to the Energy Newsbeat podcast. My name's Stu Turley, President and CEO of the Sandstone Group. I got an action-packed show today. I mean, I normally have somebody cool. I got somebody cool from ComboCarbon. That is just absolutely phenomenal. I've got Dan Gualtieri. I hope I got that right. It's Italian. Gualtieri. I'm sorry. Hey, it's a Gualtieri. Welcome, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here on your show and in Dallas with you in person. This is cool. Good. This is good.
I want to give our listeners just a little bit of inside baseball. I love ComboCarbon, and if you want low-cost energy to your house, you need natural gas, oil. If you want to get the price down on your car, you need to have it drilled lower cost. ComboCarbon does such a phenomenal job that it is well reservoir all the way. I've taken it from the well to the investor, from the investor to the CEO. It is unbelievable the power of this software in saving money, and it goes all the way to the consumer. Mm-hmm. So from the well to the investor to the consumer. Welcome. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. No, thanks for having me.
So I'll tell you, when you sent over your resume, I mean, you got a pedigree. And another little bit of inside baseball, you and I went to Oklahoma State University.
I love Oklahoma State.
Wasn't it great?
So well focused, so well organized.
Now, what did you get there other than dates?
Yeah, so it was compressed video. It was back in early 90s, first compressed video program. We did masters. I did a master's in electrical engineering in 2.5 years.
Wow.
And then my MBA to follow that, and that took actually more time. It was a 3-year program. It was more busy work and less technically challenging, but more intellectual, right? So.
Oh, fantastic. I'll tell you, I love Stillwater, love Coach Gundy. I was there when Coach Gundy was the quarterback. Jimmy Johnson was the head coach. Pat Jones was the defensive coach. And I got to tutor Dexter Manley, and it was,
right.
He couldn't read. So, I mean, they did not do him any favors. Great guy. Love Dexter. But holy smokes.
Nothing but upside. We call those people with a lot of upside potential, right?
Oh, I love Dexter. But you know what's sad is he got a higher score on my test that I helped him with in business law. He copied my answers during the test, and then he miscopied them. So they gave it. I'm like, I'm going to get thrown out of school. So anyway, hey, tell us what you're doing for ComboCarbon, and we're going to go back a little bit later for your history on how you went from school to there. But what are you doing there?
I'm executive director for customer success. I've known Armand and Jeremy on the ComboCarbon side before they started ComboCarbon.
Right.
So watch them grow up from basis studies into an early stage platform, into a startup, back into a full-fledged reserves and economic platform that has just been the best tool that I've seen in the industry. That was developed in the shortest amount of time. So the platform has been really, really impressive to watch it evolve and see the culture change from a pre-startup to truly a entity that is beyond, that's a real company today, right?
I'll tell you, being on my side, didn't mean to interrupt, Dan, but I'll tell you what, on my side, I saw your people take me and my team from problems. My team was working with your customer success story, and that is huge. I've been on this side of it, sitting there with other CEOs looking at me going, McFly, and I mean, I'm like over here, and I mean, they would call, they would work.
Right.
Our guys would work with that. Michael Tanner, want to give you a shout out. But anyway, and all the other guys that helped with us on that. So that was fantastic.
You know, we start talking about conversational analytics, the ability to actually have a conversation around the data, around the project, and the fact that you could take a team and save weeks of time to get where you would be early on in that life cycle. And then you could spend more time running sensitivities and truly understanding the asset, where most of the time you spend 80% of the time to get to an answer, but you don't have time to do the sensitivity workflows, the what ifs, the answer product that has to be given to the private equity group, to the bid, to truly understand it. So what do? You de-risk it.
Right.
I don't want to de-risk it. I want to understand where I'm really at and then de-risk appropriately rather than de-risking because I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. And so when you sit there and you take a look at oil and gas with the supply chain issues we've had, Dan, this has been awful for the E&P operators out there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the costs have doubled. The oil field service folks are getting slaughtered.
Right.
And so when you take a look, you better know from your reservoir engineers that you got some good data, and that's going to be a good well. And it's critical.
It's all about reducing risk at the end of the day. Reducing uncertainty, reducing risk. The entire oil and gas industry is getting more efficient. Right. So it's taking less people to drill better wells. And a lot of it's due to technology improvements, workflow efficiencies. ComboCurve touches every aspect of oil and gas group.
Right.
A&D, production engineering, asset, reserves, and integrating all of that into one workflow. That's the power of what ComboCurve can deliver. A lot of clients are starting to figure this out, but you got to start with baby steps. You got to have a small team using it.
Right.
They prove it up, and then it expands in an organization. The true power is that integrated workflow where everybody's using one form of truth, one data set, rather than separate workflows.
You know, one of the things that I really loved about the support team was several of the folks that we worked with did not have very good hooks into accounting. And so we were able to bring hooks into the accounting because if you're not understanding, because it complex is so tough, you have so many mineral rights, you have so many shares, you have so many of these kind of things. And so being able to bring the data in, how much how much oil, we were able to take skated data all the way in, give the reports every day to the investors. And we've done this, I've done this before and other things. But if you take that data, tell me an investor's not going to love sitting there going, hey, we just had 5,000 wells come out today.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Right.
That's strong. So
yeah, we had a conversation. A very sharp software programmer I worked with basically had a saying, we don't know what we know. Organizationally, we know a lot.
We don't know
what we know.
That's a T-shirt waiting to happen.
Oh, if there you we would do a whole class on that. I could do a whole curriculum on that workflow. But the whole idea is we have databases. We have people. They have engineering assessments, engineering results. Laptop on their server. We have databases, field, production, drilling reports, completion, petrophysics, log analysis. All that data is across the domain. With ComboCurve and our focus on data connectivity, data sync, you can grab this data, integrate that into a workflow, and put it in a spot where people can touch it.
Isn't that great?
There was a study out there that basically said, I spend 20% of my time collecting data, right? While 20% of an engineering's time just collecting data, he's not doing anything with it. He's not organizing it. He's not getting it into a form he can use. He's just finding it, right? Being able to integrate that data into a cohesive workflow and be able to touch the field engineer data, the carbon emissions from the field side that is today separate from the engineering asset team, from the production engineers, from the reservoir engineers, because everybody's got their own world, their own sense of what reality is, pulling all it all together. So now I can do what ifs. And I want to touch that data, bring it in, do my comparatives, and run my workflows using integrated data workflows is huge.
Well, you mentioned something really, I'm going to sit here and go, okay, you say something like a nugget, and I got it. Okay, carbon, and you go through there. You've got carbon, ComboCarbon. Now, with the ESG and having to be just totally watching the methane and figuring out how much of a carbon footprint that we've got in the oil and gas space, when you sit back and take a look at it, tell us about ComboCarbon, because that is a phenomenal piece of measurement and everything else. Tell us.
Yeah, the integration of the carbon data into your reserves database, into your engineering database is huge. And huge, let me explain a true scenario. Working with a major operator, the field engineers are doing carbon exposure, carbon modeling, dealing with H2S and facilities tied to that, running sensitivities in Excel.
Right.
Okay. The asset team is running their own workflows, not knowing what the field engineers are being challenged with, and the reserves guys have their own world. Everybody needs to have their own set of books, so to speak, but integrate that data in so the field engineers can see what the expense models look like from the reserve side, and the CapEx models and be able to do a true analysis using corporate knowledge that is in the world, what the organization knows. The field engineers don't have exposure to it.
No.
But when they're running their models, they're doing single well. They're making assumptions. The expense models may or may not match. The price decks may or may not match.
Wow.
There's no excuse today why that information can't be touched and shared to the right people with the proper security access. So now I'm going to make your production engineer smarter. Right?
Okay.
Another major operator said production engineers only do production things. They're not supposed to look at economics. How in today's market do you not drive an engineering decision based off of the economic impact?
Absolutely.
I can drill the most productive well in an asset, an area, in a field. It wouldn't be the most economic potentially. Right. I want to know that, and I want my engineers to start thinking that way. That's a cultural shift that some operators are capable of doing. Some are still in that challenge phase. Let the production guy do what he does. Let the drilling guy do what he does, and somebody else is going to do the economics.
There's very few people that have both, and fortunately, a shout out to Michael Tanner again. I got a freak that works. He's my co-host on my daily show,
right?
And I mean, he's got that. And so when you sit back and take a look at finances, and you take a look at the carbon capture, the carbon output and measurement, investors want to know how good you are. In fact, I believe it was Oxy that had their first carbon neutral shipment go out all the way through the whole thing, I believe, to Cheniere and then out on LNG. I mean, unbelievable when you take a look at an Occidental Petroleum. They have really gotten into the carbon capture, which is different. But on the other hand, when they're out there selling that all the way through, you got to know what your carbon footprint is in order to get to the investor.
Absolutely. So Oxy's been one of the leaders in the industry related to the carbon component. It's very impressive to watch that organization work. Today, due to simplicity, and I'll touch on one thing back to the production engineer. Why does the production engineer not run economics? Either he doesn't know what the inputs are.
Right.
He doesn't understand it, or the process to calculate the economics is too complicated. Maybe training him on areas or other tools may be a challenge, or using Excel, which could be potentially a flawed model. Having exposure to that data in a simple tool, which ComboCarbon really is, that simplistic solution, he can start doing his own economics. You start talking about carbon exposure, understanding your benchmarks. Where are you at compared to your peer group? Where are you at trending from last couple of years? With ComboCarbon's integrated data model, I'm not going to try to push this, but there is an integrated data model from the Subpart W reports that can be leveraged. So your organization can start looking at exposure, can start looking at what's happening in the industry. I want my engineers to have all the data they can touch.
Right.
And I want them to consume things and do what ifs and look at how are we doing compared to the top 3 operators in my area.
Right.
Now, it may not be, he's not going to report it on up, but him having that knowledge matters from an organizational standpoint. Carbon matters, economics matter.
Right.
Right? You can do the best frac job in the world in a reservoir that has no hydrocarbons, and what did you accomplish?
Yeah.
All right. At the end of the day, you would never know.
Well, with, you and I were chit-chatting right before the show, and it is, everybody who's ever seen the show knows that I believe that we need to deliver the lowest cost kilowatt per hour to all of humanity. Let's get rid of energy poverty.
Yes.
And I mean, Absolutely. We're talking Africa, we're talking here in the U.S., the disproportionately impacted communities, but you got to do it sustainably. And so everybody says sustainable wind and solar.
Right.
Those are not currently with their technology sustainable because you're having to print money in order to get those done. Natural gas, nuclear, wind, solar, hydro, I don't care.
Right.
Let's get humanity out of here. Now, that being said, there's a lot of funding from the federal government that has come in, but you got to prove that they snuck in nuclear in some of this, and then they snuck in natural gas available for some of this money. So you mentioned Occidental Petroleum and figuring that out. So I think it's 50% in Texas of the oil, which is, the Permian and huge, is private oil E&P operators. So I'm going. I got a place I'm going here. So when you sit back and take a look, in order to get into that funding and you get into the other areas, you got to have and do what Occidental's done. They've gone into the carbon capture, but they've also followed their trail. They've done both. I believe this is a $4 trillion market in carbon capture. I could be wrong. And I think that there's the newest plant that just is coming along in Louisiana that is going to be more than the 18 that are currently in existence around the world. I have to fact check myself, but I think that's about right. Now, let's take ComboCarbon could be a major issue for getting federal funds or permits done if you're articulating what you're doing. Am I? You see where I'm going with this?
Absolutely.
How did that sound? That was a long way around that. So, but it was. But it could be critical for those companies.
Yeah, understand. Spending the time and doing the engineering work appropriately matters.
Right.
And doing it efficiently at the end of the day.
Right. Physics matter.
Time, effort, physics, absolutely. The ability to model things and do call it a digital twin, call it whatever you want. At the end of the day, I can build a model with facilities, pipeline, subsurface drilling program, flaring strategies, flow back considerations, and I can now do what ifs. And the ability to do that in an afternoon when I have a model done, or being able to do that distributedly, so I have my production engineer able to do this based off of in unison with my ESG team. All that makes people more efficient. Allows them to be more focused on what the emissions could look like. And you'll have engineers come up and say, if you did it this way, we'll save it. And you give the engineer the tools to quantify that and not just say, how about this? Here's an idea, ESG team, you go model it. The engineer could have the tools. He can model it on his own, and then he can share that with the rest of the organization. So, on the combo curve core side, I'm saving one engineer for every 3. So I'll give you an extra engineer. This is statistics. We've done this a lot with lots of customers. Traditionally, 3 engineers, I'll give you an extra engineer. I'm making you more efficient. That engineer is going to get his job done faster, so he can move on and do more deal screening, or he's going to spend more time diving into the science and the sensitivities for the asset to be more effective. On the carbon side, I open up the door where the rest of the team can play in that ESG modeling initiative to reduce emissions and be more emission focused. This all goes back to KPIs at the end of the day, corporate benchmarks. What are my benchmarks? What do the executives say the benchmarks are? How does that affect me as an engineer? Can I see those? Can I touch those? Can I quantify those? And given the engineer the tools to have help, that's what every CEO wants. Every CEO wants to have his team in unison with him. Right. Benchmarks, KPIs, tools that matter, efficiency.
But you know what? Everything we have talked about is the ability for the reservoir engineers to articulate to the CEO so he can do his job better. And a lot of times you nailed it that the reservoir engineers don't know what. You get them spun up in combo curve, all of a sudden they're going to be, they're going to be all nerded out, excuse me, but a lot of them are nerds, and I'm a nerd, by the way. So, you sit back and kind of go, wait a minute, the CEO gets better. The CEO, the whole C-suite gets better.
I mean, they get more data. The C-suite gets more accurate, representable data faster.
Right.
And I go back to metrics and dashboards. All this can be automated to a point where everybody could hop in, even the management team at the management level, at the engineering level can hop in and say, how are we doing from an asset perspective, from a company perspective, and see those benchmarks. Their decisions matter when they look at corporate goals and they can actually see those.
Right. Without name dropping, I just had Dr. Patrick Moore on my podcast. He's so cool.
Nice.
I really like him. And he came back for the second one. He says, hey, I'll come do some more. But you got to go check those out. Those are fantastic podcasts because I have wonderful guests. But here's the thing with Dr. Moore. And that is with the zealousy that's going on in the renewable space. If we don't educate people about using all forms of energy, I'm sitting here saying that I can recognize that a CEO from an oil and gas company can articulate to his folks and help educate folks. Nick over at I believe it's CNX, the CEO over there, he is cool. And he's out there shouting out how to be humanitarian. I mean, you know him?
Yes.
Isn't he great?
Yeah.
I love him. And also, you have the others that are out there. Anyway, I got a bunch of them out there. But he is a humanitarian. I mean, and when you take a look at that, I've seen it firsthand, everything that you've just said.
Yeah. It's amazing to see how the industry really cares. It really does. And putting the right tools in place, allow people to do their job and pay attention to it. If you don't have the tools, then you say, well, shrug my shoulders. Well, I can't model the impact I have. I don't know. Do I change it? Do I change out pneumatics to electric valves? Do I change my flowback strategy? What's the cost impact if I do change my flowback strategy related to my exposure? And cost impact, do I get dinged on my asset costs? At least I can assess those. Right. What's my price point I need to have to do a different type of flowback or take the gas to a generator solution, and then be able to model that in an afternoon and have a conversation around it. Right. It's not a week study.
Right. When we sit back and take a look at the Permian, and we take a look at, we have the Powder River, you have the DJ, and you have the Marcellus, and all of these kind of things. So you've got all of these across the country. We have Exxon, and we have a few of the others that are now saying that they're going to be able to continue to grow our production in the U.S. By better efficiencies, just like we've talked about. But they're also going to be able to everybody's saying, all the good area, and now we're going to go to the next not so favorable
tier 2,
tier 3, and all of those kind of things. So what is your answer to that? Because I've got my opinion, but I want to hear what your opinion is. Tier 2, tier 3. How is Exxon and all of our great E&P operators going to expand out?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously you drill the better wells first. Right. Economics 101. I'm gonna do the best job I can in the areas I know with the least amount of risk with the most well control.
Right.
Then I'm gonna move and try to continue to develop the other acreage positions.
Right.
But you can model these acreage position issues. You still have the efficiencies of better tools, better data collection, better tools, faster workflows. Right. You'll be able to manage this with less people, but you still can quantify it. Is it economic? What kind of financing do I have to have? What does that program look like? And it's not a team of people and months worth of work to get to those answers, those what ifs. Every management team says, change this, change this, change this. I need an answer tomorrow. And some people are spending all night doing it, and maybe they get half answers, or you're going to make assumptions, and I hate assumptions. As an engineer doing deal evaluations, my biggest fear was having data that I didn't touch, I didn't have time to touch or use into my workflow. And that scared me because I knew it was there. Right. Now I feel obligated to use it if I can consume it.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been on that other issue where somebody's got a gigantic presentation for millions of dollars on the table.
Well, let's talk about this topic.
Okay.
Go ahead. No, keep going.
Have millions on the table. And I'm serious. And when you sit back and say, well, when you price all your stuff out in an ROI, it's gone strip pricing.
Yes.
But you get all of these people saying, we're at $90 oil, or we're here, or we're there. What if?
85 flat. I hear that a lot. No way.
Oh, no. And when your well is profitable at 65 and it's a great ROI, and you look at that strip pricing as it's moving out there.
Yes. But
I love the what ifs. What ifs on ComboCarbon are so cool.
Yeah.
Because you can sit back and kind of go, like Putin, hey, that almost sounded like Fonzie, not Fozzie there, but, like Fonzie instead of like Putin. My Putin imitation is so bad. Hey, you better listen to me. Yeah. But anyway, you see where I'm going with that?
I do. Sensitivities, the ability to run the sensitivities. And a true example is working with a group where they were looking at a Bakken deal. The price deck from a reserves company, when I plotted the price deck, it took off. And it was probably a true valid price deck at the time. And this was 6 months later. I was helping them do a reevaluation. Prices just didn't make sense.
Right.
We ended up using the strip when you plotted them, ended up going like this versus like this. Well, that delta was huge. At the end of the day, I think it was, every point in time, and if you look at all those different price decks in the world, they overlaid on top of one another, and then reality,
Right.
you're guaranteed to be wrong, right? And the question is, how wrong? That's millions of dollars.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to dive into automated workflows, and I'm going to touch on proximity forecasting, the ability to create fit-for-purpose type curves based off of wells' geolocation and completion constraints, surface and subsurface constraints, into an automated process. So just go down this path. I have 1,000, 1,500 wells in a deal package. Okay. I could decline curve analysis, a bunch of those. I can QC those using diagnostics. I can get the best fit. Let's argue. I can pull those. I can collapse those. That's 15 minutes on 800 wells. Right. Okay. 400 wells are out. Not enough production data. Spotty production data. Vera volatility. Start and restarts, refrac, recompletes. All of that falls into that bucket. Some volatility. Auto forecast works well, but you're not going to do this off of 4, 5, 6 months of data.
Right.
It doesn't work. What do? You build type curves. Spend time, build type curves. I talked to one client this morning, 407 type curves. And now they're trying to get those out to do statistics on those type curves. I said, but proximity will do this for you. So each well could have its own type curve based off of constraints, vintaging, proppant loading, fluid loading, thickness, other aspects. I could bring all that together, but I automate. Proximity in ComboCarbon is the only tool that automates that workflow at scale. And now I can take that to any type of compare it to type curves, compare it to other decline analysis. But I have a true fit. I can generate a P10, 50, 90 average assessment with real data, real wells around me, and I can grab 5, 10, 15, 20 wells and do this. Click, let it run. I'm working on economics. I'll come back, QC it.
Oh, yes.
We're talking on 400 wells, we're talking 3 to 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? My QC is going to take a little bit longer, but okay. And then in an hour, I'm pretty happy.
Oh,
millions of dollars and tens of millions of dollars on an asset. And then you could do your own sensitivities. Terminal decline. What's a 0.5% up and down assessment on terminal? What is this rate decline type curve proximity variance? So I have a bound. Now I have a window with that asset, my risk tolerance with that window based off of uncertainties. And then I can add my own de-risking factor if I want to. Similarly with price decks. I can run all those in units with a price deck simultaneously.
Right.
Just build my script and let it run.
I can see this also in the huge M&A market right now. And so when you sit back and take a look, you just described about 16 things right there. And my head's just sitting there spinning because I've used this in talking to folks. And I got to shout out to RT Trevino because he's shaking and moving out there. And so when you sit back and take a look at evaluating a potential sell, you've got companies that want to get out of an area.
Yes.
Is it really a good deal?
Yes.
Are these worth reworking? Are they not? And so I know that RT just had a well come in and it's rock solid, and he's a
happy camper.
Oh yeah, his
RT's great.
Oh yeah,
that's why he can drill a well now. Oof.
Oh yeah, So anyway, but you take a look at that aspect of it. The M&A, how do you see the M&A side of things coming around the corner? It gets a little weird when you're sitting there going, I used to have a pretty good thumb on oil price. I used to have a pretty good thumb. It went out the window a while ago. Mm-hmm. What are you seeing in the market for M&As? Because I see it as a good potential, but I don't know what you're...
Yeah, I mean, younger engineers getting in there, playing specifically on the banking side, just running their due diligence. I think the ability to define a due diligence process,
right,
and run these things, because experience takes a long time to put in place. I knew guys that could sit there with a big chief tablet and LOE and come up with an asset valuation on a tablet, and it was pretty freaking good.
Right.
But younger engineers have to run these sensitivities to learn the impact. Does it matter if I look at tail percentages back to my asset value, right? Well, plus 15 years, probably not as much, obviously, you would think. So, but being able to screen, high-level screen deals quickly and then figure out where to prioritize your time. If you have an engineering team that's got 15 deals coming in the door and you don't know where to spend your time, well, how are you going to pick? I could screen these very quickly and prioritize based off of fit for purpose, pass some of these off to another group potentially to work that has a better fit for these type of assets. But you can touch every deal today.
Oh, yeah.
In theory. And then run your sensitivities and script these automated sensitivity components. So you're spending time analyzing and looking at data and not pushing data back and forth per se, right? But let the automation work for you.
I can tell that when your name is that way, that you're speaking with your hands or you're pounding on the table. Yeah. We're sitting there kind of going, hey, and I got my lousy imitation of Putin. It sounds more like, was it Sopranos?
The Sopranos. Yeah. There's a Gualtieri in The Sopranos, by the way.
Oh, nice. I love The Sopranos. I thought that was a wild show.
Yes.
I mean,
it brought back memories of home.
I wonder if Putin would ever show up on The Sopranos if they ever did a remake. They can't do it.
I think he'd fit right in.
But anyway, when we sit back and talk about what's next for ComboCarbon International, are you guys looking at going wild all over the place?
Yeah, focus-wise, obviously carbon's a big focus. We want teams to be able to model their carbon exposure, whether it's top-down, bottom-up. By top-down, meaning taking the data that's already been submitted to the EPA, leveraging that over vintage by operator by area, and using that as knowledge related to, hey, if I'm doing a deal evaluation, I want to know where they fit in that carbon stream, exposure stream based off of their peers in that play, because it may make a difference.
Right.
Or I want to be able to model the facilities from an asset management standpoint and understand if I improve my facilities or I do something special, what's that cost impact and what's going to be my reduction or impact on carbon taxes later.
Nice.
So carbon adds all of that workflow. That's core for us, because we want to support the industry. We want to be there and make sure the industry has the right tools. We are one of the most advanced carbon modeling solutions for operators today.
Yeah, great.
Hands down. Where else do you go? Well, the life cycle of ComboCarbon. It further advanced the well planning, the scheduling well planning workflows, taking that to that next level. Diagnostics for economics. Desperately needed on a workflow related to understanding, like we do diagnostics for production forecasting, diagnostics based off of sensitivities, and then eventually you have to start scripting these and doing your auto sensitivities, automating that sensitivity workflow automatically.
Wow.
Right. So KPIs, executive level, every major group has KPI. Production, A&D teams. Was working with a trading group that had a distributed team, a couple guys in London, a couple guys in Canada, a couple guys here, being able to grab their portfolio of deals evaluated, won, lost, bid, not bid, and aggregate those into a automated report for the client or for management. What do we do? What do we say we're going to do? All that data is in one spot and not all over different engineers' desktops, so to speak. Huge upside. And then the Canadian market.
Oh, yeah.
A very big focus from the Canadian side, right? There's a lot of activity. There's a lot of interest in supporting the Canadian market as the next step.
I love the Canadian market. I mean, they're such good people. I got some good Canadian folks up there. I'll tell you, I just have always enjoyed Calgary. It's a good place. So next time you're going up there, I'll go with you. I'll carry your bag.
I need to make it to the Stampede, so that's on my bucket list.
Okay. Cool. But we're going to avoid the forest fires that are up there right now.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll leave that alone. But
as flooding a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
Do what?
They were flooding a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah. Go figure that out. But, we sit here and we laugh about Putin and stuff. Didn't you just come back from Russia?
I did.
Oh, tell us about that.
Oh, that was a trip. No, very good people, honestly, at the end of the day.
Isn't that great?
It was almost like being here in the U.S.
Wow.
Street signs were in a different language. People were good, friendly. They like Americans at the end of the day, which is interesting.
It's not the leaders of the world. It's the people.
Yes.
Anyway, one of the benefits to my podcast is I get to speak to folks from all over the world. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I've got a few Russians that I correspond with as well, too. And they're great people. Absolutely wonderful. When you sit back and kind of go, I wish all the leaders could get along.
That's my vision as well. I think it's just tragedy where we're at today and why we're where we're at, and would like for everybody to be able to fix it.
Countries go to war over energy.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud to be in the energy industry, talking to nuclear folks, talking to midstream, oil and gas, even renewable and storage. Frere Battery out of Norway, cool people.
Yes.
They've got the only renewable batteries for storage out there. And I mean, when you put a storage facility in there and it's renewable, that cuts down on the child abuse. So now when, there's no child abuse with the combo curve because everything's software and here in the U.S. Right? That Congo child abuse and everything else just drives me nuts with the critical minerals. But as we go here, you've got several patents. You've got your resume from OSU, great school, love my time at OSU.
OSU, undergrad, Rolla, Missouri. I got to give a shout out for Missouri School of Mines. University of Missouri Science and Technology today.
Right. So, I got a very low score. I don't want to tell anybody that, but I got a very low GPA at OSU, and I had to get mine from my MBA from Oklahoma City University. So, shout out to Oklahoma City University as well. So you've had a heck of a career.
Love it. Yes, oil and gas has been great.
I saw your pedigree, your resume and everything, and you've spoken around the world, all these kind of different things. And what's next for you?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. Just continuing to work in the industry, be a champion, work with teams. I always take jobs, work with good teams. It's all about the people.
Right.
At the end of the day, I can go back several steps in the back, and it's always good people trying to do good in the industry, trying to matter. I love energized people that are highly motivated. I go back to the Boots and Coots days. I was director of technology for Boots and Coots. That team was just amazing. Worked with Jerry Winchester. He was part of special services of Halliburton. He came in, became CEO of Boots and Coots, and then we started working together when when Boots and Coots was acquired by Halliburton. And just loved working with dynamic people, right? People that care, that are focused with a common vision. At the end of the day, they get together, they make a decision, and everybody leaves with a common vision, right? And you get to that vision quickly without as much pain, and people walk away agreeing to support that mission is kind of the goal.
But you're also doing things with, I believe, the Salvation Army, if I remember correctly.
Salvation Army of Greater Houston. I'm on the Boys and Girls Club.
Nice.
The Salvation Army as well. I like giving back. Part of it was I blame Halliburton for some of this. We actually
want to blame
Halliburton for being involved in charity.
I thought that's what you said.
I did. Charity, it takes a lot of time and effort to do this, right? Back in 2004, I was working with Halliburton, and I wanted to make a difference. And I started interviewing charities.
Right.
And I spent time, and it took me about 4 to 6 months, and I talked to a lot of charities in Houston, and the Salvation Army was the one that resonated.
Nice.
The religious component, you can get people off the street. Can you keep them off the street? Sometimes you need that religious component, that belief in God. Hey, he's here with you to make it work, and I've seen it work.
Sorry. I applaud you for that. I just want to give a shout out to Jeff Crilly and all of the Real News Media team. We're here in their studio today, and we had a gentleman out in the lobby that he was very, very cool. He came up and said, I loved his cross, and he was absolutely
cool. Preaching.
He was preaching. You and I are going, preach on, brother, preach on. Absolutely. So anyway, I'll tell you what, we've got 2 more minutes. 2 minutes.
All right.
What are your last thoughts?
Yeah, this is exciting. This is exciting to be part of what you're doing. I see the passion in what you do. So this is just, it drives me to be passionate as well into these workflows. Closing thoughts is there's a whole lot of opportunity in the industry for us to be more efficient. We can do our jobs better with more environmental focus, making better decisions. Let the tools work for you. Don't be afraid.
Right.
I think at the end of the day, people are afraid of change. Change, if it doesn't work right, can be detrimental to certain people. At the end of the day, get referrals, talk to people that are in the know. one thing ComboCurve has really done well is customer service. When you make a transition into ComboCurve, we're there with you. We step through the whole process with you. You're not buying a tool and we say, here it is. Here's some videos. Go watch them. Have a nice day. Do you want training? I'll charge you extra for training. We're all in with our clients, which is intriguing, right?
I lived through it. I'm over here going, preach on.
And similarly, with the stuff I do in industry, I want to work with people that have passion and have an interest in being successful at the end of the day, and that drives me as well. So it's been fun. Industry's been a lot of fun.
And people can get a hold of you either on LinkedIn or how else?
LinkedIn.
Okay.
100% LinkedIn. That's where I spend my time. And then, of course, happy to chat. So reach out to me. Happy to do one-on-ones, introductory calls. If you want to just meet and say hello for 15 minutes, ping me. I'm around.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. And I want to give a shout out to Armand and the rest of the ComboCurve team. Absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much. I just appreciate your time. And for all that, thank you to all of our wonderful listeners. I want to give a shout out to all the other podcasters on the Sandstone Media Group. We are knocking it out of the park and approaching a big year for 2023. So with that, thank you all.
The easiest way to start your own podcast and TV show? Real News Communications Network. Stand out from your competition. Produce streams of high-quality social media content. Become a thought leader in your industry. With RNCN, you get to be the host. We handle everything else. Tour one of our 3 locations in Dallas, Fort Worth, and the Colony. Call 972-402-6333 or visit launchashow.com to find out more.